Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll just wait a minute or two for late arrivals. Um, the today's webinar, Sophie is going to be talking us through this, um, and I'll hand over to her in just a minute or two. Um, as I say, we'll just wait 1 or 2 minutes for late arrivals, and then we'll begin. Well, okay, let's start. Again, thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about AI today, or rather Sophie Zuccalo is. Um, there's been a lot of talk about AI in the press, I'm sure you're aware. AI, Rentman basically we're proposing 4 different implementations. The first has been in Rentman for a year or more, which is where Rentman is using AI to do image enhancement, write property descriptions, check grammar, that kind of thing. That's using ChatGPT and built into some of the Rentman screens behind a few buttons that I'm sure you're all aware of. The second implementation, and these all work in parallel, they're not either or, but they all work in parallel. The second implementation is what Sophie's going to be talking about today, and that's using ODBC. Sophie will explain more about ODBC itself in a moment. And that is where you can use typically Microsoft Copilot from within Excel, typically, to get read-only access to your data. It's live, it's real time, but it's read-only. There's been a lot of horror stories about AI, so we're not letting it loose on your data just yet. The third implementation will be integrating with third parties. I'm aware that many customers will be looking around and being approached by startup software companies with AI products to sell. I was approached by one just last week that was they were touting an AI robo-caller to call your past landlords and see if they want to sell their property or relet through you. It was voice, and it would telephone them based on based on your data. Um, we don't have any mutual customers yet. I'm waiting to see if anybody thinks that's a good idea. But that kind of thing would be the third type of implementation that we're thinking of. And the fourth is Rentman. We are investigating, we are researching, and we are trialing our own AI agent using Microsoft Azure platform and the various options it has, and being able to. But as I say, we're trialing, we're investigating, and we're really waiting for people to come up with a requirement. I think I said in my blog post a month or more ago, AI at the moment is a bit of a solution, and we're just looking around for problems. It has to be said that every time I think of a problem, it's better coded, hard coded. Then you know what you're getting. AI is still a little bit like playing darts with your data. You're not 100% sure it's going to do what you think it's going to do. Anyway, those are the 4 implementations we're rolling out. Please get in touch if you've got ideas or requirements. Meanwhile, I'm going to introduce Sophie, and she's going to take you through ODBC and Microsoft Office. Sophie.
Hi, okay, thank you, Nigel. So the main topics of today's webinar are we're going to talk about how to access Copilot in Microsoft Excel. We're going to talk about how to set up this ODBC connection in Rentman to get access to your read-only data, live data. And then we're going to talk about how to access this connection in tools like Copilot so you can analyze your data and create visualizations with it. So most of you probably already know, but just introducing Microsoft Copilot, sort of the why here. It's an AI-powered conversational assistant developed by Microsoft. The reason we chose it is because it's built directly into Microsoft 365 applications. So what kind of sets it apart is it can interact with them and edit them directly. So in Excel, for example, it can be used for data analysis. So it can help you analyze trends, generate insights, and create visualizations like charts and graphs and that sort of thing. For seeing if you can use Copilot in Microsoft, there are some requirements. So you have to have your own Microsoft 65 personal, family, or premium subscription. And even if you're part of a family subscription or part of a premium subscription, the AI benefits will only be available to the subscription owner. So members of a family subscription can use the apps themselves, but not the AI features. So even if they're part of the same plan, only the owner can use them. The easy way to figure this out is in any desktop Microsoft application, if you just go to File and then Account, you should see this little window that says Product Information. And then if you see this little rainbow icon that says Copilot, that means you have access to it. And you can also click Update License to refresh this view if you think it might be out of date. But that's the easy way to check. Just something to note here for GDPR compliance. So I looked into Copilot. They claim to be compliant with Microsoft's existing privacy and security commitments, which includes GDPR and the EU data boundary. They restrict data processing and storage for European customers to data centers within the EU. And then Rentman itself, our data is all stored within the UK, Nigel told me. And also important to note is that none of your prompts, responses, or data is used to train Copilot at all. There are more ways that your admins can go in to set retention policies for like chat interaction data if you want to look into that. Use a service called Microsoft Purview. Um, but important to note that this use of Copilot involves your existing GDPR agreements with Microsoft, not your agreements with Rentman. So we're just giving you this read-only connection so you can import your data, but any use of it with this AI is involving Microsoft, not us. Something we've been looking at in general for looking at AI involving Rentman is how to minimize security risks. So there have been a lot of stories lately of companies building AI integrations into their infrastructure that can interact directly with data and it going very poorly because it was put in there faster than any infrastructure to make sure that it was safe. So you can see here, like a lot of data loss, databases being deleted. So we cannot directly verify the safety of external software such as Copilot, but to mitigate these risks, that's why we've given it, we do not give any sort of AI free access to your live data, so that it is filtered and read-only, so it cannot edit anything. It can just analyze what you give it. Because AI agents have been known to violate these safety rules and guardrails and not be completely safe yet. So that's why we haven't built anything directly into Rentman yet. And this is our first step because this is kind of a safer approach to do it. It's also important to note that using this connection with Copilot is completely optional. So you can still use this connection to analyze your data in Excel manually, if you know how to use Excel, without any AI being involved. This is just the way to bring your data into Excel if you would like to do that. For all of the levels of this plan that Nigel has talked about, we're always considering security and ethics first. And then if you have any immediate or specific requirements, just let us know and we'll see what we can do. Kind of what he said, where it's like a solution looking for a problem. We're very open to any ideas that you may have. So this is the part where we talk about setting up the connection. So this is how are we getting your data into other applications like Excel? So first, heard me say ODBC. What does that mean? In simple words, it stands for Open Database Connectivity. So it's just an interface that allows applications, so like Excel, to access and interact with databases. So that's like your Rentman data. It requires an ODBC driver specific to your database, so it has to download something. Rentman can now download the correct driver and set up a local connection for you. All you have to do is click a button in Rentman, so that's pretty cool. Something to note is that this feature will only work on the desktop version of Rentman on Windows. So if you want to use this feature but access Rentman through another method, like Rentman Online or in a browser through the RDS, then contact us and we can figure out another method for you. The first thing you want to do is you want to check your version number. So this feature to set this connection up is on, you'll see builds ending in 435 or greater. So you can check your version by going to Help and then Updates, and then check for an update. And then this window will have your current version listed and allow you to click and download a new version. So I can show that off live now, actually. So the meeting being recorded, there we go. So under Help, you can go to Updates, and then check for Rentman update, and that will open a window for you. So you can see your current version. So I'm on 4.4.3, so I am greater than 4.3.5. But if you weren't, you could just click on the latest version and then download, and then you'll be set up. So that's that. For creating your connection, the first thing is under Setup. You'll want to go to User Preferences. After that, it'll open a new window, and it'll have this button called Refresh ODBC User, or for the first time you do this, it'll say Create ODBC User. In the future, if pressing the button again when it says Refresh, that can be used to change your password. So, but the first time you do this, it'll say Create. It'll prompt you to change your password. You're going to say yes, and then you'll enter what you want your password to be. Pretty simple. It'll load for a while because it's getting the download ready for the driver. Don't worry if it takes a while, but eventually the setup wizard will pop up. So you'll want to just click Next. There'll be a license agreement. This is nothing scary. This is open source software, and it's for connecting to the database software we already use. So it's not like a new application. It's just another part of an existing thing that it's already built into Rentman. You can read it yourself, but if you accept the terms and then hit Next, this will automatically be on typical. This is fine. You can just hit Next, and then you can install. So after that, you will get a little prompt. This is normal on Windows, where it's like, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? I couldn't screenshot this because you can't screenshot in this page, but your verified publisher will be Oracle. You'll want to say yes. If you know with your admins that, like you say your IT company prevents you from directly installing new software, you'll have to get them to help you with that. Because I know this is an issue that some people have where their permissions on their computers are restricted and they don't let them make changes to their PC like this. So you might have to get external help with that. But this is just asking for permission to download the application. Gosh. After that's done, you should see a success window pop up that says it's okay. So this will have the name of your data source. So for our example here, it will be Rentman Nigel Test. And then you will also have your credentials. So your username and the password you chose will be confirmed here. So once you see this, that is done. Some important things to note here. So these credentials are required to access your connection. You need to put these in to be able to access it. You only have to do this process once to set up the connection. After this, you can use it as many times as you like. So those steps only once. You just have to press the button once and download the thing once, obviously. This connection is local to your specific Windows user profile on your computer. So if you heard me saying like this is a local connection, that's what that means. So you can only access it if you're logged into your user on your computer. So it's very specific. You can also only create this connection and even see your credentials, like your password and stuff, after already logging into Rentman. So it's just as secure as the Rentman itself. So shouldn't be any worry there. Yeah, so from here, for accessing it in Excel, once you open Excel on desktop, if you go to Data, you will see a prompt to get data. This is pretty standard. And we'll open a drop-down window. So in this drop-down window, you'll want to go to From Other Sources and then From ODBC. So that's where you'll want to go. This will open a little pop-up window. And then in this drop-down, you want to look for that data source name from earlier. So again, for our example, it is Rentman Nigel Test. So you select your name, whatever it is, and then you'll hit OK. This will open a window for your username and password. So again, that's from earlier, what you put in, saw earlier in that window. So username and password, press connect. If at this point any sort of error occurs, please just contact support. We can definitely help you with that. So don't worry if there's a problem. There shouldn't be a problem, but if there is, we can really easily help you. So just reach out. It's good. And then after this, you should see a navigator that sees all of these views into your data. So yeah, these are the read-only views into a selection of your live data. These are dependent on access levels. So different users on your Rentman account will have different views into the data based on their permission level. So admins will have access to all views. Negotiators have access to applicant searches, deals, events, and key logs. Management, on top of everything negotiators have, they'll have access to a bunch more data about like finances, property management, oversight. So they'll have like tasks, rent reviews, all this stuff about outstanding rent, bills, certificates. They have a lot of access. And then all users, regardless, have access to appointments and advertising data. So like photos, media, that kind of thing. Easy thing to do this is just take a look. So we open up Excel here. So again, we go to data and then get data from other sources and then from ODBC. A drop down, we're going to choose Rentman Nigel test, press OK. There we go. So you should see here a little drop down folder, and then here are all the views. So you see we have advertising data, there's applicant search, we have your appointments, bills, can see different building balances, invoices, different landlord expenses and transactions. You have the media for property advertising, rent reviews, and tasks, all sorts of things here. So you can click around and take a look. This is just test data, so some of these tables are pretty small for us just because we kind of put them in here for testing. So your rent reviews table, for example, will be much bigger and more complete, and the insights will also be much more meaningful with your tables. So this is just our test data that we put in here. It's not like any real applicant data. So once you're done, you can press load. It'll open a window. So it's querying Rentman right now, our servers. Might be a little slow for me just because this data is coming all the way across the Atlantic for me. I'm based in Canada, so. And there we go. So now into Excel, you have all of your Rentman data just directly here. So that is pretty useful. Now, if you want to, at this point, you can analyze this just yourself if you know how to use Excel. But I'm just going to show you here for a little bit how to use Copilot, some things you can do with that in here. So a general question, if you want to start, is typically, can you generate insights into this data? This should give you like a broad overview of some observations it can make. For when you're asking questions, it's good to just use your own words. And the more specific your question is, the better the answer will be. So make sure if you have a specific, something specific you want to know, ask that question as specific as you can. And if you want it in a specific format, make sure to specify that in your prompt. So say you want like a specific type of chart or like a bar chart versus a pie chart, that kind of thing. It's good to be as specific as possible. There are a lot of things it can do. So create charts and summaries. It can identify trends and outliers. You can also specify specific columns you want. So if you're like looking through your data and you have a specific metric that you want to look into, you can specify that. Yeah, that kind of thing. I think it's important to note that this is like a dynamic conversational process. So it's not gonna, it's typically, it can be if you just ask one question and then it'll be good, but you can make it, request it to make changes or fix specific errors to your liking. Like you can definitely go back and forth with it, and that's typically better. Generated responses are not guaranteed to be completely factual, so it is good to look through it and use your judgment, reviewing the output. I think treating it like a draft that could have errors is definitely safest because it can be unreliable, especially with very broad questions. But if you're doing a quick demonstration here, we can take a look at this directly. So we have our data here. I just got to drag my webcam over. So you should see this button in the bottom corner, the Copilot icon. Now, there are a couple of settings here. So you can have it to allow editing. You can come up with a plan, or you can chat only, which will just give these insights in this text window, but not make any changes to the sheet itself. So if you're on chat only, something you can do is audio dictation. So if you don't want to type, you can just talk to it freely, ask questions about your data. But for today, we are going to allow editing. So a good general question, we'll start with it, is can you generate insights into this data? We'll let it work on that. So the more general the question is, the more varied the response. So if you want the same answer every time, you're going to have to be more specific, but this is just a good broad question. You can see it working here. So it's like identifying how many task records there are. You can see it kind of thinking. And then once it gets further, you'll be able to see it making edits. But I'll show you an example while it works just earlier for when I asked this question of what it can make. So this is just from one prompt. This is what it created. So you can see overview statistics here of total tasks and completed tasks. Open and voided. You can see how many are assigned to a contractor versus not. You can see completion rate. You can see information about quotes. I think something very useful it does is key insights and observations. So you can see it noticed the low completion rate and it flagged that, and it also noticed low contractor assignment. This is sample data, so that's the main reason for that, but it will generate insights relevant to your data. It identified the most common issue was fixed ceiling. And it also identified that a lot of these were happening at 14 Hampstead Hill, so they might have like a recurring issue with their ceiling. And it noted that there's a lot of outstanding work. And then it also created breakdowns of percentage for tasks by type. So have those there. Tasks by property, you can see, and then you can see a status summary here and then a contractor summary. So with one sentence, it generated like all of this. And we also have a chart here that generated, so we can see tasks by property. We can see how for half of them are 14 Hampstead Hill Avenue. I'm not sure if that's an actual property. This is just test data, but yeah. So this is one thing to generate, but let's see what's going on in our over here. Looks like it's done. Okay, so again, since that was a very general question, it can ask, it'll be slightly different every time. It'll have more varied response. So from when we asked today, we can see did the same sort of thing, just in a different format. So pull in the side here, we can see key findings. So it identified open tasks, it identified overdue tasks, most common issue, that kind of thing. Yes, so we have like some statistics at the top. We see there's an open backlog. Can see there's no valid due date for some of these, again, test data. We can see it's concentrated here. We have tasks by property, tasks by type. Did a similar thing here. Oh, looks like it made some charts. So now I'll just quickly demonstrate something we can do here is making a change to this. So say, can you change the charts on this sheet to be pie charts? Because maybe that'll be a more helpful visualization. Let's see here. So we can go back and forth with it just to get whatever outcome we want. There we go. Yeah, so just a quick question. Hit change these tables, and now we can see pie charts. So that was the main demonstration. At this point, Nigel, did you want to see if anybody, or is there anything specifically you want me to ask or want me to demonstrate, or did you want to see if anybody had any ideas of specific things to ask?
All of the above. I think I would just like to emphasize there that Copilot had not been trained on Rentman data. It did that cold, right? It worked out what all the different columns meant. So it had never seen that data before, except individually, but there's been no training happen. So um, I think that's worth remembering. And as Sophie says, the more specific you get with your questions, the more reliable the answers, the more consistent the answers. No, anybody have any questions? Please, now is the time to ask or raise a hand, or I think we had the Q&A um, uh, enabled. Um, so no questions yet.
I could, just because we have time, I could show off transaction data. So just
Okay,
another type. So back in get data, and grab it again. So another type of data that's pretty common in here is ones related to finances. So a lot of these tables aren't very complete, but one that I saw that was more complete in here for our test data was landlord transactions. Reload that here. So right now it's grabbing a read-only copy straight from Rentman of what your current data is. So you see what happens there. I should also show in Rentman itself just as a quick demonstration. So if you're looking for this button again under Setup, we go User Preferences. And then here is that Refresh ODBC User button. So that's where it is. I just wanted to show you beyond the slides how to find that. Right now it's creating transaction insights. This is where we can see it working live. So you see these rainbow kind of lines as it changes things. You can see its logic as it thinks or thinks. Yeah, so you can see just as it works, it identified net cash movement of credits versus debits. It identified where the largest cash flow was. Different payment methods, again, credits, debits, due amount, and code, credits, debits, and due by code, net cash by property. Yeah, so broke transactions down by month. Yeah. So yeah, key findings, it found that our net cash was in the negative. It found sums of credits and debits. It found our total due amount and identified, again, because it's test data, that there was unknown payment methods for a lot of these and it got some duplicate rows. But it even with that flaw in the data, you're able to fix it. So I could ask it to clean up that data too. It like flags data quality issues, but you should not have any. But yeah, just a quick other thing to show since we have time, but.
Okay, well, no questions. Thank you all. Thank you, Sophie. I think we said earlier, has been recorded, so you'll be able to go back to it and share it from the usual YouTube channel. Okay, thank you all very much and goodbye.